Hello, everyone. It's Derek Floyd, Beautiful Now Podcast. Welcome to Beautiful Now Live. We're so glad to have you today. It's felt like it's been 100 years since I've seen all you guys. How you doing out there today? Are you guys making it through this crazy COVID madness? Pray that you are. Of course, the Beautiful Now Live podcast is all about having topical, relevant conversations that are things that can help you stay uplifted, encouraged, and inspired. And as I told before, it's like a lunchtime chat. So pull up a chair, sit with us for a moment. Hopefully this will give you something to chew on while you're eating that lunch and getting back to the office. Now today I have a wonderful special guest who is going to hopefully encourage and inspire you to be the best that you can be through self-care. Something that we kind of avoid from time to time, but it's a really important topic that I think will help a lot of you out there today, women and men included. She specializes with women, but I think she's going to be able to enlighten us all with so many different things. Now, her name is Diane, and she is actually multiple things. She's a yoga instructor, which is pretty incredible. She's also a life coach, which is someone who wants to encourage you and talk you through the things that are going on in your life and in your planet. And she does a website where she has podcasts and she has devotionals on her Facebook page as well. So this woman is a multifaceted, multi-talented person who I'm so glad to have on the Beautiful Now Live today. Diane Cevallos, will you come on and talk to us today, Diane?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, there she is. How are you, dear?
Great.
So glad to have you on the program today.
I'm happy to be here.
How are things going in your world with this COVID-19 madness?
When people ask me that, I always say I really don't have any reason to complain. I'm very blessed, but I have the same challenges as everybody else, kids, homeschooling, those kind of things.
I can only imagine with kids at home and the dog and the cat and the canary, I'm sure it's hard for you to get things done, right?
Yes.
I can only imagine. Well, Diane, I'm glad you took some time to talk to our subscribers out there. As I mentioned before, you're a life coach, you're a yoga instructor, so many different things layered into what you do. For me, it's a matter of trying to make sure they understand what is a life coach and how does that apply to most people.
Well, life coaches they encourage, they challenge, they motivate their clients to move from where they are to where they want to go. One of the things that I love about being a life coach, especially a Christian life coach, is we kind of change that a little bit. So we encourage clients to move from where they are to where God wants them to go. So we encourage our clients or my clients to kind of tap into God's vision for them and their unique calling for their lives.
When do you know if you need a life coach? Like, is that something you sign up for, or do you just the light bulb goes on and, oh, I need somebody to help me coach my life? How does that work?
Well, usually when people feel kind of stuck and they don't know how to move forward, or maybe they're just feeling like, I know God has bigger plans for me. I know there's something out there. I just don't know what it is. Then that's where a life coach comes in. Life coaches work for me, I work with women, but I work with women to move them forward, to help them kind of uncover God's purpose for them.
Well, as a life coach, do you feel like most people struggle with the same thing, or is it different in each circumstance? Each case is different.
Well, that's a great question. Most of the women I work with are trying to kind of break through some self-defeating habits, some limiting beliefs, those things that kind of hold us back from walking in our God-given purpose, our unique calling. And so I just like to work with women mainly on their mindset and how to move them forward so they really can tap into this purpose-driven life.
On your website, you talk a lot about having a powerful mindset. What does that really translate to for women out there right now?
So I love what Pastor Craig Rochelle says. He says, your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And, I don't like the way my life is going. So that's kind of where you stay at. Or, and it's always just about checking in with your thoughts and how you view things. Henry Ford also says, if you think you can, you're right. And if you think you can't, you're right. And so, and also Romans 12:2 says, confirms that it's changing or renewing of your mind. That's what transform our lives. So it's always about mindset first.
So do you spend time with that individual kind of unpacking where their negative thoughts may be to kind of help them reset?
Yes. So I start with what I call rewiring. And so we kind of walk through self sabotaging behaviors such as control, perfectionism, comparison. A lot of limiting beliefs start to resurface. And so we challenge those beliefs that are kind of holding us back, those outdated belief behaviors that hold us back from right, really stepping into what God intends for you.
Wow, wow. I mean, I think back as when I think about a mindset, I think that's something that's been, I would say, not ingrained in you, but it's been something that's been with you as you've grown up. Like it's not like you overnight have a certain way to thinking. It's something that you walk through and it develops as you get older, no?
Absolutely. And it's a neural pathway. So I always refer to it as, when you mow the grass and it's wet and it's moist. And if you ride a bicycle or something heavy through there, it kind of creates a groove in the grass. Well, that's what happens when we have a thought that we keep thinking over and over and over again. Well, it creates this neural pathway. And so basically, we're trying to retrain our thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm like anxious to hear more about how you do that. I mean, with COVID-19 changing everything around us, which has been insane, what do you see has been the most challenging behavior that you've had to kind of learn to address or learn to adjust in people these days?
I think control for a lot of people. COVID-19 has shown us how little control that we have. When people feel helpless, they start to seek ways to feel in control. You see it with, overspending and unfortunately the abuse going up. People are seeking control constantly, but we know that control is an illusion. And so I'm reminded of one of my favorite verses, Romans 8:28. It says, "We know that for those who love God, all things work together for the good." And so, it just is a reminder that, God is always working for us and that we can release that need to control.
Control and illusion. I've heard that before, but when you say that out loud, kind of demystify what that would mean to the average person.
Well, I think that sometimes our need to control an outcome or something is almost like a security blanket, And so, but it doesn't secure us. It actually keeps us trapped. And so this illusion of control is almost like feeling like that we are confident in what we're doing, like we have a hand on what, but God, faith asks us to believe in something that we do not see. And faith is forward movement. So control and faith are two opposite things. And control often accompanies fear. And so we have the fear of the unknown. And so there's fear behind that. So I want to control what I can.
Hmm. So does this come from like all aspects of a life, like a woman maybe trying to control the budget or control her house or control the kids, or is it just an overall part of control?
Well, I love that because we really can't control anything, really. The only thing we can control is how we respond to things. And that's where it comes back from mindset. We can't control our kids. I mean, we can guide them, we can teach them, but we can't control them. Our finances come from discipline, not really control. It's being disciplined in what God says about how we should be good stewards of our money and our time. And so I find that, control is very fear rooted, and fear is false evidence appearing real. Control is illusion.
I like
So
it.
there's a lot of things behind those, certain areas of our life. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, that's deep. That's taking me there. So there, so sometimes then when life gets crazy, as it has been of late, we kind of
Mhm.
forget to take care of ourselves first, which is where we
Yes.
kind of get the real difference between selfish and self-care. Can you kind
Yeah.
of elaborate on where that lands, especially with the climate where we are now?
Well, I think for selfish, there was so many years that, there was a topic around like self observation or self absorption or self awareness. And all of that is great. And it really does bring it back to the self. But selfish and self care are two different things. When we only focus on ourselves, we become selfish. Self care is a way for you to take care of yourself so you're able to help others. If we've been on an airplane, we know I used to be a flight attendant. I was a flight attendant for 15 years. And one of the things that we would say to our passengers was, what? You got to put your own oxygen mask on before you help someone other. another person. And so when you're talking about self-care, it's about taking care of you first so you're able to help someone else. It's not just totally thinking of yourself.
Wow, wow, that's wisdom. And for I see some people that are chatting on the line right now. They're saying that the video on my side's a little choppy, but yours is perfect. But they can hear me fine. So we already apologize for any technical difficulties. But we're glad you can hear our voice, and we're glad that you can see Diane because she's the most important part of the segment today. So thank you for letting us know. We'll see if we can get that fixed as we go. But yeah, as far as you talking about being on the plane and taking care of the other people, that's the thing that always reminds me when I think about being selfish or self-centered or self-care, is that you got to take care of yourself before you can get off the plane. If you're not taking care of yourself and you don't have the mask on, so to speak, then how are you going to take care of everybody else on the plane? So I do always recognize that one, but I think it's such a thin line for most people because we may get up thinking, okay, it's all about me today. I'm going to take care of me today. And it becomes I just say it's a small space because if it gets too much about you, then you forget the fact of you're doing it for someone else. You're taking care of yourself for your family, taking care of yourself for your job, for your church, for God, of course. So it's all about that reminder of the second part of that phrase. I'm taking care of myself for something else, you know?
Yeah.
What do
And
you
in
think?
Jesus' teaching, he always, stepped away. You read a lot about that, how he would step away from the crowds and go find time to be alone with the Lord. And I find that, in this society, we're just constantly striving for more, 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 and it's where is that really coming from? Like, let's get to the root of that. Where is that coming from? Is it from a need of control? Is it from fear of not having enough? So we need to do more? And that at the cost, are what are we costing ourselves for the striving to do more?
If you had to take a few specific things that you would tell someone to take care of themselves or to put into place for self care, what would be the first few things you'd say to that woman that came in and said, I need some help?
Well, the first of all is self-care is, a lot of times you ask people about self-care, they think about pedicures or manicures or massages, and those are all really great. But self-care is actually four parts. There's the physical side of self-care, there's the spiritual side, the mental and emotional. And we need to be taking care of all of those parts. So some of the things that I talk about are what are you doing physically for your body, such as are you getting enough sleep? Did you know the average American gets 3 to 5 hours of sleep a night? Sleep
Wow.
is not negotiable. It is something that our body needs. I know some people say, well, I go to bed at this time, but I get up at this time. But there's a quality of sleep that we need to get in order to restore our bodies. So the first thing I talk about is how much sleep are you getting? Also, are you unplugging from electronics before you go to bed? Are you bumping up surfing through your phone right up to the time that you sleep? Those lights from electronics prevent us from getting into that deep restorative sleep. And then I talk about water intake and exercise and eating healthy. And then that's just the physical. And then we go into the spiritual side. For me, I operate in the Christian faith. So we talk a lot about prayer and time with the Lord and devotionals. And then we go into mental and emotional.
Wow. Wow. So that's a lot of different parts of self care.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think as we expand on it more, people realize it's not just one facet. It takes a lot to take care of yourself. Like you said, mental, physical, emotional, sleep. And I'll vote for sleep, man. I never seem to get enough sleep. But then when I get a good night's rest, all of a sudden I feel amazing. So I completely win with the sleep one. Count me in for that one.
Yes. I'll keep you accountable here.
So even when you have a good sense of self, let's say you just really understand yourself, you know where you're headed, you know where you're going, it can be hard to stay passionate about what you're doing, passionate about your life.
Yeah.
So many distractions just take us off course, right?
Mhm.
What are some of the things that we can do that we can stay passionate about the things we need to do?
Well, passion burnout is real. It really is. And the thing that you fell in love with now just sometimes feels like a chore. We were just talking about that before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
one minute it's thrilling and you're like, okay, and engaging. And then the next you're like, I'm exhausted and I don't want to do this anymore. And I think that's where it comes to self care again, just coming back and making sure that you're coming back to taking care of yourself. And also, is, whenever I feel kind of discouraged or depleted or distracted, I just remind myself, like, where is this coming from? And why am I doing this? The where and the why. And usually where it's coming from is being overscheduled, not setting boundaries, and not taking care of myself. And then I always question the why. Well, if I'm constantly doing it for, I used to do things before I went through this last Christian coach training where, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, I was doing it for other people, or I was doing it because, it looked good, and then I always question my why. And if my why is not coming from the Lord, then instantly I stop and reevaluate.
Wow, wow, that's powerful, and I can take on that because we were talking before we started today. I let myself overschedule, and I said I'm not complaining today because you said, well, how you doing? I said I'm way too busy, but I'm not complaining because I've said yes too many times. I blame no one when my schedule's overbooked because it's me controlling that schedule. So I have to learn to say no a bit more and say, okay, like you said, why am I doing this? Where is this coming from? Those are two valid questions I think everybody can ask, not just women during self-care, but everyone dealing with decisions can ask those questions. Where and why? Super important.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. What about the limiting beliefs you've talked about? You said that these things can keep us moving forward or keep us moving forward a bit. Talk a little bit about that, what that means in everyday sense.
Well, limiting beliefs keep us stuck. They're often about self identity. We talked a little bit about being selfish, and the beliefs that may also be about other people and how we see the world. A lot of belief systems were passed down from generation to generation, and we've never taken the time to really challenge them to see if those are belief systems that really land for us. So I often ask my clients, let's talk about those self-imposed belief systems that are really not who you are, but you just kind of followed along because that's how you were taught, or that's how you were raised. And I ask them to challenge them, especially when God's trying to do something in their lives, because those old, outdated belief systems can often keep us from moving forward into our purpose and our unique calling.
Yeah. So you'll say you challenge those beliefs. You make them go, okay, where did that come from? Why are you feeling this way?
Where
Is it associated with God or not? Is it something just super you driven, or something you're doing for someone else, or even I've understood this. Sometimes we do this for someone else to gain their approval, not just for them because we want to do something for them as a kindness, but we want them to approve of something we're doing, right?
Oh yeah, that validation thing is huge.
Validation.
And also just our self-talk too. I always ask people or my clients, why are you asking yourself, is this empowering you and moving you forward, or is this keeping you stuck in an old belief system about yourself? I'm not worthy is a really big one.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Self-talk, man, is terrible. When you say, "Oh, I'll never do that," or "I can't do that," or I'm not good at that." Very rarely, even my wife will prove it. Very rarely do I ever speak negative about myself. I try not to, not because I believe I'm so wonderful and great, but I know Scripture says, "Power of life and death's in the tongue." So I'm not going to curse myself. I'm going to try to keep myself as positive as possible, knowing that I have the power to change my life, change my sphere by how I speak. So I'm super cautious about that. Do you recommend that to your clients as well?
Absolutely. It kind of goes back to what we were saying before. Your life is always moving in the same direction as your strongest thought.
Your
Absolutely.
strongest thought. I like that. Your life is moving in the direction of your strongest thought. I'm gonna have to keep that one on my books for a while. I might steal that one from you. It's okay. There you
Yeah, Craig Crushell. I'd love to take credit for that, but Pastor Craig Crushell is amazing. And he has a great series called, I think it's a Mindset or something, but he's amazing. And he really talks a lot about neuropathways and mindset.
I've
So,
got some of the people that are chatting back with us today. Some of the people said, "Hey, wrong belief system can hurt us for sure." Thank you for doing that, Zuni. We look for validation when we don't have love for ourselves. That's so true. Thank you for that, Mom. My mom's watching, so she put that one up there, and that's great wisdom. We look for validation when we don't love ourselves. That's a powerful statement because if you really love yourself in the way that God meant you to, you don't need to be validated by somebody else. All you know is God loves you, and that's all you need to know. But if you're not really comfortable with you, you're not sure, you're feeling uncertain, then you start looking for everybody else. And I have a real big issue, and I don't say this the wrong way, like social media. Like, we all post to social media immediately all day, and we're looking for that validation that, okay, my life's okay. Someone sees my life, I matter. But do I have to post my whole planet all day to make sure I feel better about me? You know what I mean? Do you sense that?
Yeah, I think it just goes back into why. Why are you doing it? Are you doing it because you're wanting to connect with your audience and build relationships? Or are you doing it for validation? Whenever I find I'm doing it for validation, I'm doing it for the wrong reasons because my validation doesn't come from these worldly things or from people. The thing is that if we're looking for people to validate us, then we're always going to be disappointed. That's it.
That's it. I agree. I agree. Well, you have an 8-week series that helps women through some of these matters we're talking about.
Yeah.
What does that entail and what's it called?
So you can find it on my website, dianecevallos.com. And it is just an 8-week series that I kind of walk through different areas of your life. Hopefully, the outcome is to bring women into a purpose driven life. And so we start with rewiring, challenging those self defeating behaviors, self sabotaging behaviors, old, outdated belief systems, and such as like control, perfectionism, comparison, validation, all the things that we've kind of tapped on, negativity. And then we kind of move into renewal. So I incorporate some ways to renew their mind with affirmations and journaling, and I introduce some just awareness and being grateful for everything. You know, a grateful heart is a grateful mind. So we start to see the world in a little different way. And then we kind of go into those 4 components of self care that we had talked about, really creating with this new powerful mindset, a good, strong self care program that fits for them. And I'll kind of walk through that. And then we go into core values, and I do 2 assessments, a DISC assessment and a spiritual gift assessment. And then after that, we start to create an action plan to move forward. I really love the 2 assessments. They're both Christian based. The DISC is so we understand ourselves better, and the spiritual gifts are just a way for you to kind of see the gifts that God has given you.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. As I get to the close here, a last few questions. Where did you discover that you have the ability to be a life coach? Is this something you go to school for, or something that you just kind of walk into and learn from others? How does this go about?
Well, my first training was secular, and it was life changing, but it was definitely focused on self awareness, self actualization, self. And this last training was really eye awakening for me because it really taught me to realize that I can't do anything without God. And so I've learned that my self striving instead of God serving wasn't working. And so I am a certified life coach. Actually a certified integrative Christian life coach, which means I integrate a lot of different modalities. I feel like when one part is healthy, it affects all the other parts, the opposite. So I work with all parts of the body. So yeah, so that's where
Wow.
I'm at.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's plenty. That's
talk about it all
plenty.
day. Make a better coach.
Okay. Well, okay. Here's the big, easy but big question. What's the one principle, if you could even narrow it down to one, that you've learned through being a life coach that you could share with anybody to change their life, and how can they get a hold of it? What's that one principle?
It's not about being first. It's not about being last. It's not about being a winner or a loser. It's just about loving yourself and loving one another and being the servant to all. I mean, it really is. Well, that's what really can truly change your life is when you start to love one another and just be God, be who God is asking you to be, coming from a place of less of self-serving and more God-serving.
And though that is, I would definitely agree and be correct. It's not always easy to push somebody into that space or to navigate them into that space because people come to you with lots of stuff. I mean, they come to you heavy, right?
Yes.
And I'm sure you have to kind of peel back the layers to get them to accept certain things. Even if you say be love and love each other and love like God loves, if they're not willing to go there yet, because sometimes they're not, are there things that you can help them with to peel away those layers, like they have unforgiveness or they have resentment or they have self-loathing? How do you get to those spaces?
Well, I love that you said that because coaching is about moving people forward and counseling is about visiting the past. And so, first of all, when people come to me and they haven't quite worked through some of the issues that I think are keeping them majorly stuck, I always refer them to a counselor because life coaches are about moving you forward. So there is a certain mindset that you need to have in order to be ready for coaching. However, if I wanted to give someone a nugget today on something that could help them, first of all, I would say if you're stuck in some belief systems that you feel like God is really nudging you to challenge, start journaling about that. Journaling is really powerful because it's a way for you to get out what here is on paper. Also, is forgive, move on. Forgiveness keeps us trapped. And so it's not about the other person, it's about you. And then start to incorporate some time for loving yourself as God loves you. And when we start to love ourselves, it's so much easier to love others. And those are just little ways that you can kind of bring in now. I actually have some freebies that are going to go up on my website by the end of the week about journaling. And so people can go to my website and download a freebie on there.
That is awesome. Well, as we talk and close it out here, that's great that you pointed back to the website. I did put the website in the chat so they can go to it right away on Facebook and YouTube, so you guys can see that on the chat. And if you guys want to get a hold of Diane, please go to the website. There's an actual mailing list there. You can type yourself in. She'll be glad to get back with you. I know she will. And, I think for all of our subscribers and the watchers out there, we just want to make sure you know that, number one, you're not alone, and that there's a place that you can go. There's people that you can talk to. And if you really do want to move your life forward, a life coach is a great start. Like she said, if there's some past issues pulling you back, maybe a counselor is the first part of that, and they're separate in their own way. But if you're ready to make that step and you think, hey, I can push my life forward, I just need a little bit of a nudge, then I definitely suggest Diane or a life coach of that manner to help you get started. Right, Diane?
Yes, absolutely. There's many wonderful life coaches out there.
And I love that you talked about journaling. That was pretty important too. I used to journal quite a bit back in the day, but now I feel like I've just kind of fallen off of it. But man, that when I remind myself of what I used to do and write down and how I used to follow what had come through and where I've gone and where I wanted to go, it was a great therapeutic kind of space, right?
It is. It's a great way to reflect back too, especially in this time of uncertainty. We can kind of reflect back and look how God has always pulled us through. And it goes back to the Romans 8:28. It always works out for the good. And so I love not only journaling my thoughts, but also reflecting back as well.
Awesome. Well, Diane, you've been a great joy to have on the program. As always, I try to keep it locked down to about 30 minutes. We're at 129, so that's almost at 30. But if anyone wants to reach out to Diane, go to the website, Diane. Pronounce your last name properly so I get it right.
Yeah, my husband's from Ecuador, and I do not speak Spanish. That's so sad. We've been married for 13 years. But
Cevallos, but it's I put it on there, DIANE. CEVALLOS.
Yep, that's it. Very
.com. So go there, check out all the things she has for you. And do you have an event coming up soon? Did you wanted to mention too as well?
Well, yeah, I have
Shine, I think.
Yeah, I have a Shine Women's Retreat in the end of September, and we have quite a few spaces available. And we'd love for you to hop on. I think there's about 10 women going already. And love to give you some more information on that, but you can log into my account and or my website and see the details on the Shine Women's Retreat in Hendersonville at a beautiful, beautiful farm, Horseshoe Farm, huge farm, and we have it all to ourselves. So I'm so excited.
And this is Henderson, North Carolina?
Yep.
Nice. Well, you might get some people coming from all over because this particular segment went all over the place. So you never know who's going to show up for you.
I would love it.
That'd be great. Well, again, thanks you everyone for watching today. If this has encouraged or inspired you, I hope you can share it because this will be live on Facebook in just a few moments. And then YouTube will have it as well. So you'll be able to send this link to someone else who needs to be encouraged and inspired today. As always, we look forward to seeing you again at the Beautiful Now Podcast Live. Take care of yourselves out there. Wash your hands. Be very careful. We hope you stay safe, and we'll see you again soon. Take care, guys. Be blessed.